Gabfocus. Tommy here at Storage Pug. Happy Thursday. Melissa, how's Chattanooga?
It's March. It's spring. There's pollen everywhere, but the sun is shining and I am happy.
The allergy, the plants are attacking hard this year.
Yes.
My wife got allergies and she never gets allergies. Several people in the office here are feeling a little
Yeah.
stuffy. So yeah.
At least it's pretty.
At
I
least
mean,
it's pretty.
yeah.
Yes. Well, welcome everybody to the third episode of Gap Focus for 2024. If this is your first time, welcome. Melissa and I are super stoked to have you. You chose a really good one because we have the one and only Carol Mixon-Crindle. Carol, how are you today?
Good. Doing great. Thank you.
We're stoked to have you. We're happy to hear during lobby talk that your hip surgery is healing quite rapidly.
Yes.
So
I'm not running yet, but I can run a little bit. So
that doesn't surprise me.
but it's just, it's so amazing. So, but happy to be here.
We're so glad that you were here. Well, welcome back to the Gap Focus stage. You're no stranger to us, but in case someone in the audience just doesn't happen to know who you are, tell us who you are, where you're from, how long you've been in self-storage, and what's your favorite thing about this industry?
Yeah. Well, first off, I've been in self-storage since 1984. I first actually worked in it in 78. My first husband, his parents ran a storage place in Tucson. And so I thought this was the weirdest thing ever. So when they went on a vacation, we worked it for him. And I just thought I said, so what's behind the doors? Like, what are they putting in there? And they had guard dogs that we had to let out and clean up after. And it was something. But I will say, and then after college, I got a job with National Self Storage as a trainer. And so I had a 10-day training program for managers, and which was, I believe, in that time period, it was, the first one that's all, we brought people in from our different states and I trained them for 10 full days. So I had them like babysat them for 10 days too.
Nice.
Even in the evenings, I had to, we had them set up at a hotel, but it was amazing, the learning. But we had a gentleman that came in because, the owners were saying, hey, these people aren't doing, they start out great and they do really great. And then all of a sudden, it seems like the store goes downhill or things don't go so well. So this gentleman, he said, you got a great training program. He said, but you're not maintaining what you're training. And he said, and especially on the phone, he said, that is one of the things that if it's so important, you never follow up and keep training them. So they over leveraged their properties in the 80s, this company did. So 22 of us got let up go one day.
Wow.
So I went out on my own and I just started. And so then I thought, well, I'm going to do the mystery shopping. And so I started Skill Check, and it just seemed like I right away I put a $50 ad in Messenger, and it just went from there.
Wow.
So it's really it's interesting now because we do thousands of evaluations of managers on a monthly basis. So what we do is we give feedback because the problem is sometimes the owner, they hire you, but they don't know how to sell. They don't know what to tell you to say and what to do or to have a process. So we have mystery callers or we do live calls and we evaluate those and give them feedback on how they're doing. And it's just, I feel like, because I early in my life, I played a lot of sports. I played tennis and I had coaches, I didn't, even when I was young, my dad said, you need lessons. We need to get you some lessons. Cause he helped me for a while and he said, you're so good. We should get you going. And even through high school and in college, I played tennis. So and I sing too. And there's if I get ready to sing something big or whatever, I have to go back into training. In fact, I was singing Ave Maria and at a place or in Napa outdoors. I went back 6 months and okay, but I was only going once a week, like to get help. But the coach, the training that he was giving me, because he said, oh, sing it for me. And then I sang a little bit and he goes, oh, geez, you're so rusty. I was so offended. I almost cried, I swear.
Oh my gosh.
And so then I thought, you know what? I mean, like, come on, Carol, and so I listened to it in the car. Everywhere I went, and my kids know Ave Maria now perfectly
I'm sure
because
they
I've
do.
sung it in the car so many times. And then one day I went in, and this was still like maybe a month out before I had to sing. And he stopped and he goes, "That's the best Ave Maria I've ever heard." And so I was like, yes.
So
And
you were
Practice paid
forced
off.
to take a
And-
hard look at your
yes.
performance. Yeah.
Yes, and listening to yourself.
Mhm.
So that's why it's skill check. We evaluate what they do and we give feedback.
Yeah.
And you have a recording that you can listen to, and we score it. And we have a 5-step. You greet the customer, you ask inquiring questions, you counsel them on your features and benefits, you invite them down, and you close the call. So you have sort of a system that you learn, and that with that system, and believe me, that in calls sometimes they'll take you right to, well, something else. But learning to control a sales call is super important, because because sometimes they don't realize they need to know, and you need to know more information before you tell them the size and price. And I think sometimes customers think we want to get them in the biggest unit for the
Biggest
most amount
dollar.
of money.
Yes.
It's just the opposite.
Right.
We make more money per square foot on the smaller units, right? So they don't really understand that. And even some managers, that I think, I would say try to get them in the smallest space possible. That's what I would be looking for is this,
Yeah.
and again, right now we see a little bit more occupancy, or vacancy than we have in quite some time. I mean, I can just tell, just with the mystery calls we're doing, we hear, that before, during COVID, we were like, no, we don't have any. We're 100% occupied. But when the climate changes like that in what you're doing, you have to upper your skills. You cannot just sit there and say, this
No.
is going to be, you're going to just stay where you're at. And I think if you want to be good at anything in life, you have to practice and get feedback and to
Yes.
improve. And I know sometimes it's like, oh, I know how to answer the phone, and and we do have a guide. So we try to help people, to be able to say, greet the customer, ask those good questions, tell them about your store, because if you're not telling about the store and telling what makes you different from someone else, they may not know. And especially like if you have an air conditioned unit, or if you have just outside drive up or inside hallways, it's so important to be able to handle any kind of questions the customers have.
So
And
Melissa, like, do we do we even have this episode? Carol just gave us.
I feel like there's already 233 people on here, and we haven't even actually started.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Carol,
we're still in the
your
introduction.
your bag is deep, and I'm excited to dig into
Okay,
it, girl.
go for it.
Yes, this is exciting. Well, welcome back to Gabfocus Stage. Already, I think this is a record attendance for the start of the show. So of course, Gabfocus brought to you by our friends here at the Pug in Knoxville and Lighthouse Storage Solutions in Chattanooga. Again, if this is your first time, welcome. And if, of course, I see a lot of familiar names. We love having y'all come back every month here. But the session will go for about an hour. Melissa and I take turns asking all the questions that everyone wants to know. And our expert host today, shout out Carol, will answer them. So today's agenda, let's talk about the state of sales in 2024. We'll talk about the 5 skills that we all think is absolutely critical in closing deals and making customers feel loved, right? And then converting the lead into a paying tenant. Of course, we're going to have the live Q&A, which it looks like there are already some questions submitted, so we're excited. Use that tool. You can have a great conversation in the comment section, but if you have a question that you really want us to ask, make sure you click the Q&A button so Melissa and I can see it, because that chat is going as fast as I've ever seen it. So I can't give up. So should we go ahead and jump right on in?
Yeah, let's get started. Gosh, this may be a 2-hour episode.
I know. We may
instead
have to
of
do
an hour. Yeah, this is gonna be crazy. The state of sales is what we're starting with today. So lead follow-up. 2 years ago, you weren't even really having to worry about lead follow-up because, like you said earlier, Carol, we were all full. And so following up on leads was like Why? Because
Why
I don't
answer the
have
phone?
anything. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
you
how
just
long do you think it should be before someone follows up a lead? How many minutes do you think?
oh gosh, 10 minutes. I feel like it should be super, super fast. The
Yeah,
moment that
within
lead comes in, somebody should be making a phone call.
Yeah, you're very close. People will wait up to 7 minutes before they will in self-storage, in this process. So 7 minutes, that's not long. That means
No.
that's a bathroom trip and cleaning up something or
Yeah.
putting an overlock on. And if you miss that lead, that's why I think you have to keep some kind of maybe an iPad or something with you if you're going out and you're going to be out an hour or out walking the property or cleaning up. You should take that with you because you're going to miss that.
Yeah.
You're going to miss that if they're going to go on to someone else in 7 minutes to get some feedback or information. There, you've lost that.
Either that or have some kind of call center backup that
Yes.
can take that call so you
point.
don't lose it. Yeah. Yep. You've got to answer those calls.
Yeah.
So talk to us. It's important now. What has changed to make tightening up the sales process even more important today? Like, what are the key things?
Well, I think to start off with, our industry has boomed as far as the number of storage properties, and I can say, I sometimes say no to properties because I do feasibility studies also, and I say no, and they build them anyway. I just sit there and why even ask me to do this, and then you build it, and then they're going to have trouble with it. And one was in Salt Lake, and there were 13 stores in a 1 mile radius. That's a lot. That is a lot, right? And 52 if you went out 5 miles.
wow.
And I said no, and then they said you don't know what but they came to me with their plans done, which you know how much you spend on plans.
Yeah.
So they were already into it. But I do think it's so important if you're an owner and you're trying to get into this business, you've got to do your due diligence and don't just build it there because you've got that piece or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And really, and I think sometimes now that if you're looking for opportunities, it's finding a building and then doing the interior of that and trying to start going ground up.
Yeah, well, you touched on during the intro, you touched on vacancy there's more vacancy now than there has been the last, 3, 4, 5 years. Talk us through that. Like, what are you seeing trends regionally, nationally? Is everyone feeling this way or is it just me? Talk us through this.
It's definitely all over the place. And there are some stores that are, doing really well, but they may be smaller. But again, when you're looking at the occupancies, they are definitely falling, and some into the 80s, which that kind of starts worrying people. But I had a call just the other day where a guy said we were in the hundreds, and now we're in the 60s.
Yeah.
So he said we had quite a few move outs when a manager changeover happened, and then he said after that we had a little leak thing problems. So he had a few things going on, but still, that's a huge amount to have to try to, but then you have to get in. You have to have a good website. You have to have be great on the phone when the phone does ring. It's got to be a priority and not just overlooked to. And any of those people that are going through your website and I just heard a call the other day. This lady said, well, why don't you go to our website? And she's on the phone with them. She goes, well, I was on your website and I wanted some information. And then during the call, she referred him back to the website because you can get a better deal if you go through the website. But I'm like, why would they do that?
You had them.
You had them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You
had them.
Finish it.
Talk us through that, Carol. So, like, why are managers so critical to this process? Like, I know there's a current right now, like a trend of automation and going remote manage and virtually manage and hybrid manage and all these fancy kinds of ways to manage. But talk to us about the criticality of a manager or the operator in the sales process for tenants, even with online rentals and websites and mobile phones and everything. How critical is the manager in 2024?
I think it's very critical. I think that we cannot overlook the fact that the people part of this, even though we want to go virtual, it doesn't always happen that way. And they're especially in certain because I've had stores in areas that I could probably just make it, remote completely. But people like other people watching their stuff. And the managers, I've always felt that, I try to find people with great personalities, like Jenny, that's one's on the here today.
Shout out
Jenny,
Jenny in
yeah,
Aloha.
people go into the office to see her
Mhm.
because she's so nice and friendly, and they tell other people because Jenny is so good. And I think if we get away from that piece of self-storage, yes, we're going to save some money maybe, but the idea of understaffing or no staffing is almost ridiculous. And can I give you an example? This is a little bit of a long story, but yeah, I got lots of stories. So this, we listened to a phone call. Desiree said, please listen to this call because it's really weird. And so the guy is calling into the store, and he said, hey, I'm here at the property and I'm looking in my unit. And he said, it's got dirt all over it. And the manager said, well, I'm not on the property. You could, but there's something you can sweep up with. We got some brooms up front that you can use that. And he goes, no, I don't think you understand. He said, a broom's not going to work on this. It's several thick. He said, you could grow potatoes in it.
There's that kind of dirt. There's that kind of dirt.
Yeah, he said, I need a shovel. I need a shovel. That's what he said.
Whoa.
And then he said, hey, would it be okay? I know it's like I didn't get in the day I should have, and it's been about a week and a half, but is it okay for me to just move like an interior hallway space? And the manager said, well, you'd have to, put you out of this one and you'd have to re-rent that one. Now he could transfer it, right? Very easily. And that could have been happened, or it could have happened easily. So, but I was like, why didn't he make that right? Because that person could go, put a really bad review on. I just sometimes think, when we think we can not have a manager on duty there, because that manager on duty would have taken care of that right then and right there. They would have said, and probably wouldn't have, had inches of dirt in it if that were true. So I still believe in managers. I still believe that having that security there, and it's not like they're security guards, but they're a person that's there that's watching over, and that customers like that.
Oh,
And I'm still a believer in it. I think it makes the sales process better, and everything. And I know I have rollovers going to call centers, but I would rather not do that choice because for a good example, because at the store that Jenny was at, it was caves in the mountainside in Hawaii, and that's kind of hard to explain. But Jenny could do it. But then the people at one of the call center places, when they were explaining it to a customer, they said, "Oh yeah, you said you go into a building," and like, no, there's no building, it's a cave. It's not. It's so different. So it's just.
Yeah.
I think the managers do a better job. That's just I still love managers.
And that actually go ahead, Tommy.
No, you go ahead.
Well, that goes right into the next question of knowing the product and knowing the ins and outs of your property. Using a call center can be really tricky. I've seen a couple of people comment that, call center's not always the best option, because even they have to be fully trained on what your property offers, doesn't offer. And every property is different. They are, even though it's just concrete and metal, they are so different from one another.
And Shannon said it in the comments there. I want to call it out in case someone missed it. Like, the details, these special details about your facility should be provided to your call center, or whoever's answering the phone. If that person isn't at the facility, you should provide as many of these little details as possible so they can be as helpful as they can when they do pick up the phone.
And even your website should be helpful in that way. It should have pictures, it should have video, it should have those things to help fill in the blanks when the manager isn't, readily available. But talk to us a little bit about the ins and outs of the product knowledge and how that plays a role in the sales process.
Well, I think the managers need to know the product really well, right? Obviously. And I like them to know what's going on with the website too, where, what specials we have going on, the different things. I know you all have helped me with some stores that I've had, that we've had a challenge with. And, it's hard because if you're not getting very many calls from your website, then, you have to be on your game with your sales if you're only getting 2 or 3 calls a day, those are super important. And that's why, I mean, I would rather not have it roll over to a call center if I had a choice, because usually the managers on the site are better than the call center. I know I did work during COVID with StoreQuest call center with helping them get more agents. And I mean, like we went from 7 to 21 during COVID because they had such a huge uptick in the number of calls that were coming in there, and they're like, they need some help. But it was quite amazing being on live with an agent and hearing them talk about it, because I needed to give them quick product knowledge about storage and trying to help, because they weren't experts like the manager is. Managers on the site, they know the store, they know the layout, they know, it's going to be much easier for them. But the call centers, man, they really struggle with that tremendously. I think that's a handicap for them. As if you just decided, hey, I just want to use call center, I don't think they're ever going to be as good as those managers on the site, because they know the site so well.
Well, I think sometimes that does go back to, like what Shannon said earlier, the owners not giving them the information that they need that would really make it, useful for them, when they're trying to answer those phone calls. I think sometimes they're kind of operating on a handicap there. So a lot of times, you mentioned something about having good knowledge of the website, and I see so many times operators that don't have any idea how their rental process works.
Oh
So
my
a customer
goodness.
calls and says, I'm stuck on this page. Like, how do I finish this? I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, the manager can't help. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like you said earlier, just referring them back to the website instead of helping them. I think I wonder if some of that is just a training issue of like, I'll push this off on some other avenue because I don't have the tools that I need or the product knowledge that I need or something to finish the sale themselves.
And sometimes, Melissa, it's time, because I think we've tried to have less people in the office.
Yeah.
And and that's problematic too, especially if you have big stores. I mean, I've had stores with 2,000 units. I mean, you can't run that on one person. You just can't.
Right.
And it's big as the Lowe's next door. So, you can't go show a unit real easily because the place is huge.
Right.
So I think, it really depends on the location you're talking about, but because there's all kinds of things that you all do websites for, from small to medium, large, and they all have different sort of needs. But man, the larger it gets, the more it needs managers. And sometimes I can see that we're going away from that. But I'm on the manager side. I think we need them. I think we need them well trained. Hey, sorry. Audience here. So I think it's important to make sure that they're trained well, and not only in, but even with the website. I want to go through the website with managers to say, here's what we've done here, and any ideas of things that we can do differently, that or do you have weird questions that they're coming, people are asking, and instead of going through the website, if did they have trouble with something, or we had a link problem at one point, and then we fixed that. Like that was, we just called you out and like, you fixed it. It was just
Right.
like, oh, we got that. Yeah, we can fix that. Yeah. So it's, sometimes just communication. So the manager needs to communicate to say, this is doing well or not doing well. But I think there is a marriage to be had here between having a great website and then having to have a great manager. And because you want them both, right? You don't want to give up. I don't ever want to give up that customer service the managers can give, because I guarantee you, Jenny, people go in to see her. They go in to say aloha to Jenny, because that's what they want to do when they come in, because she's so nice.
Yeah.
You can't get away from that. But I think if they want to pay through the website, or if they want some other convenience, we have to have that too. We have to find that balance.
The two should complement each other.
Yes. There's a question on that. Yeah, they have a kiosk. I think, you can rent from a kiosk, but some people have trouble with that. And I've had kiosks. I had one of my owners had one for 13 years, and no one had ever used it. But I always said it was in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I had 3 good looking girls, and everybody went by, right, and they were super friendly. Right. It's just not because they were good looking, but they were so friendly and helpful, and they were amazing. And so nobody stopped there. And the owner wanted to turn it back after 13 years. I said, 13 years, OpenTech isn't going to take it back. You've had it too long now. He's like, well, it's never been used. I'm like, yeah, but it's probably old technology now.
Yeah.
You see
Obsolete.
Oh my
Even
goodness.
if there is the choice of a kiosk there, not everyone has that same feeling that they want to use it. And I'm not saying, I do think, there are places like San Francisco, I would say, yeah, I think that they want some more automation, especially if you have a big store and you don't have the staffing, have an option. You've got to have those options.
That's amazing. Well, talk to us more about these things that customers care about, right? So which amenities do you think are the ones that catch people's attention that are like, oh, now I want to go there, right? I want to store my things there. Talk us through that.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think when you're selling, I like to cover a lot of things, but I will say the safety of the customer's goods has to be in the top. They want to know that someone's, watching over their stuff, not that we're really watching over it, but, they want to know that it's going to be secure and safe, and they don't want mice and rats and rodents, and, they want some direction, and especially I have had stores where, well, in San Francisco, I'd really like rats like this big. I didn't believe they were ever got that big, but they do.
They do.
And they can go under a storage door.
Mm-hmm.
That's still, I guess their bones are just like the chicken bones that
They're
they
like
can
cats,
go right
they can
underneath
just go
there.
through. Yeah.
This lady was telling me, in fact, she sued us and we went to court over small claims court over it. But the rats ate up her couch. And so we ended up going to a small claims court, but I tried to give her $2,500 for a couch. And she said, no, I want more than that. So she lost it all because the judge said, nope, you agreed to this agreement and whatever. So, and even at the last moment, I was still trying to give her $2,500 and she said no. So she left with nothing. But, I don't really like that. I would have rather had her leave happy or something with money to, but it was an old kind of crappy couch. It wasn't a really nice couch, but I'm just saying it was. And you know what got it? Because people eat in their couches and there was food down in there. So that's what got them started. And then they started using it for nesting. But
Wow.
But I think there's so many things at the store that managers can help with and be interactive with customers to say, be careful about what you're storing. Don't store food and things like that. Because sometimes they'll ask, do you guys have a problem with mice or rats or whatever, And so, it's good to know. It's good to know what to say and how to handle those, because that's a sales objection.
Well, and like you said, you have to engage with the customer, but in part of that engaging, you have to actually listen to what the customer is saying. And if you're listening to what they're saying, you're going to get really lots of more knowledge than you probably need about the stuff that they're storing. But when they start talking to you about what they're putting in storage, that's when you can offer those helpful hints and remind them that, make sure you put in clean items that don't have breadcrumbs all over them, food crumbs down in the cushions and that sort of thing. So with listening, why is listening so important to converting the leads that actually we get?
It's because it's meeting the customers, their needs, not what we think is important, but talking about what they think is important, because that's the problem with sometimes selling. I tell you, I love cars. I have a car fetish thing. I love cars. But every time they want to show me under the hood, I don't care. I know I'm going to buy a really nice sporty car or whatever. I don't care what's under the hood. But a salesman shows me that. Put me in the seat. Let me smell that new car smell, and you've got me. In fact, when I go I've gone sometimes and get a repair on a car or service on a car, and I bought another car. My son told me just the other day when I went, he goes, "Don't go on the sales floor, Mom. Do not." I was forbidden, because sometimes they go treat them. And I think sometimes we think customers need a whole lot of selling. We need to show it to them. We need to tell them the experience and show them. I love to show them the gate operator, how all of that works. I like to demonstrate it. I don't like to do it without ever showing the unit, because sometimes you show them the unit and you're like, oh, this is too small, because they went by what they wanted to spend, not by what their stuff put in.
So Carol, how do you train I mean, we talked during lobby talk, right? Like sometimes some people just are born with it, right? And I think active listening it can be an acquired skill. I think some people are more inclined to be better at actively listening, but talk to us about how do you train active listening skills into managers? What's the process
Yeah,
there?
that's one of the harder ones if you want to know the truth. Trying to get someone to listen, I have that issue also. So so I do listen, but I also like to talk. But I think the fun part of this is where managers, if they can take feedback and not be hurt by it and saying, you know what, you could, if had you missed this little section right here where they said something really critical. And then, and you went right on. And some of this, Tommy, some of this is like, well, my mom passed away.
Mhm.
And that's an opportunity to stop and say, I'm so sorry. You know what, we can really help you and make this process a little easier. And I've had that happen to myself, or talk about it. But that's where that human part of the manager really comes through. And I don't want them to just get on that sales thing and start going, because it's just not it doesn't really help anyone when they're opening up to you to tell you something. Or one that I heard that was on a sales call at a call center, and the girl opened it by said, well, apparently my boyfriend has a new girlfriend that's going to be here in the next 30 minutes, and I have to have all my stuff out. And the agent said, she was new, fair enough. She said, how much stuff do you have? And I was like, how much stuff do I have? You need to say, you know what? I am so sorry. You shouldn't be treated like you're going to find a better guy, and we're going to take care of you. Let's get you into, and then say, let's, and help them. But you can't ignore what they say that is bringing them into storage, right?
Right.
Especially if it's a sad story or whatever, you got to acknowledge it. And we do hear weird stuff like especially during COVID. You wouldn't believe my parents died. Both my mom and dad got COVID and they died. You've got to say something about that. You can't overlook it. And because that's just salesmanship.
And I think sometimes we do get too much caught up in a script kind of thing, even if you're not actually following a script. Brandy said this in the chat. Your phone call should be more about the conversation that's actually happening than the script that you need to follow.
Right.
What I've often recommended managers to do is make notes on the call. Yep. And that will make sure that you're actually listening, and just jot all the things down. And you can.
I do that too. I still do that to this day.
Oh, I do too. My phone rings and I don't look for my phone. I'm looking for paper. Like, where's the paper and the pen? Because that's what I need. And that helps me focus. But with the listening, with the active listening, how do you guide the conversation in the right direction while still listening well and being, empathetic to what's going on in their life and that sort of thing? How do you recommend a manager approach that?
Yeah, I have a little pad of what you ask during the call, and just like a way to go through the conversation, and with places where they can put their person's name that called, and it just rip it off. And it's not that you have to do it. It's some people just use one and they reuse the same one over and over. But I think the idea is that you're trying to stay focused on what's happening right there in the call. Because sometimes there's someone at the counter, there's the owner calling you there, but there is a triage also. When you're talking about handling the phone, there's absolutely a triage. The new customer would always be on the top, and the owner always on the bottom. And I can tell you, managers sometimes, if they see the owner ringing through, they'll take that call and put a customer on hold. Never do that. The place would have to be burning down if I called back, right? I'd leave a message, saying, hey, it's Carol, call me when it's convenient. Because I know if they're not answering me, they're busy. Right. So there has to be, where the managers really learn to manage and control that phone call. And I'll tell you, the hard part is you get to a really busy store and stuff. And I think that 44 is the most I've ever rented in a day. Which is a lot. I was dead by the end of the day. I just went down the wall. I was like, okay, this is all I'm gonna. But again, I think the important part is to focus on the customer, getting them in the right size, and making the process fast. It shouldn't be an hour long. and it might be with some customer, this, slow or whatever, but you should be able to do this, in somewhere in the 7 to 15 minutes. So, as far as the whole rental process, but some people are renting on the phone, and that's fine too. And I'm happy to do that if people want to go ahead and rent them on the phone, or on the website, either way. But it does take a little longer if you've got them on the phone. So, but as opposed to into the office, but you can still do it pretty quickly.
Yeah. So we talked about having, these 5 skills, right? Product knowledge, active listening, problem solving, giving advice, and customer care. So let's talk a little bit about problem solving, right? Because like not every tenant is not one size fits all, right? It's not always a cut and dry, we have space and you need it kind of situation, right? So like talk us through how can you help, how can solving, and I've seen this multiple times in the comment section today, how can the act of solving their problems actually lead to more rentals?
Yes, I think because you're listening to what they're saying and you're resolving it. And I'll tell you, I had a classic kind of call for me because the manager was busy and I answered the phone, and I'm going to say it was Mr. Rude. He didn't answer. I did. I put down Mr. Rude because I didn't get his name. And I said to him, I said, can you give me an idea of what you're storing? He goes, no, I just need to know if you have a 10 by 10 and how much they are. And if you have one available now. And I said, well, we do have a 10 by 10 and we have it set up, but he hung up on me. And so I just put Mr. Rude. In a little while, he comes through and he comes into the office, and I'm just there working with my manager. Nobody comes in asking for me. And then Mr. Rude came through. Anyway, I really did put him in Mr. Rude. And he came through, and my manager's kicking me below because she didn't want me to say, oh, I know you're Mr. Rude. But I wouldn't have. But he came in and he said, I'm so sorry I was rude on the phone. But the girl above our place, my apartment, the little girl left the tub running all night long. And when I woke up, I put my feet down, and my ankles were up to my ankles in water in my.
Wow.
And then he said he started putting some of his stuff outside his apartment to get it out of there. And he said then there were people coming up trying to get some of his stuff, like take his stuff. And he said, so here I am trying to watch my stuff not get stolen. It was Stockton, California, so I'm just saying. So he would put it out there, and then he said, I needed storage fast. And so I thought, you know what? Sometimes we don't know, why they're in a hurry, and sometimes you may not be able to do your whole sales spiel. You just may not, and that's just gonna be the way it is. But give them the best service you can. And I said, well, why did you choose us? And he said, you were actually the nicest on the phone. And I thought, well, there's a win. Because I thought, look, you know what? Because I think he was so rude that he got that back from other managers.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure.
I tried to be super nice, and even though I got hung up on. But you never know, do you? You don't know what they're going through. That's the whole point, right? We don't know what they're going through unless we ask, or they're willing to tell, because not everyone shares that stuff. I'm a boomer. I share more than I probably should. My kids tell me, oh, don't start on that story, Mom. No, don't tell that.
Well, and speaking of those stories, you do as a manager hear stories from every single person that walks in the room.
Yeah.
And there's a fine line between focusing on their story and focusing on, okay, I need to close this deal.
Right.
And how do you help your managers find that line of knowing when to, okay, I've heard what you've had to say, but now let's fix your problem.
I think it's keeping the process going, right? And you can listen and then say, well, let me get you started. You kind of have to take control back, even if it's in person or on the phone, right? So you can do that either way, but you can take back that control, and not in a mean way, but just in a bit of an assertive way. I taught school for a while, so I think I know, because I had junior high kids, and you have to be like on your game to not let to wreak havoc in your classroom. So I think that's the same thing on the phone. You have to still take some control, but not in a harsh way. And because some people do it where it's like, well, if you're not going to listen to me, okay, that's all I'm going to tell you. And that's really, you want to keep that process going, but you gotta be a good listener too. You gotta, balance that.
Right.
And that's not always so easy.
No, it's not. It's not. And sometimes especially if the customer calls and they're having an especially stressful situation, it can be hard to get the information that you need. So, what are some tips and tricks for identifying issues and providing solutions when you're hearing their issues come across sometimes in a really just scattered way?
Yeah,
What
I
are
like to
some tips?
kind of focus on, I just say I'm, so sorry to hear all of that. Let me make this process easier. Tell me what you're best storing. I can try to get you in the right size for you. And I will tell you, lots of people think we want to, go into a bigger unit or more expensive, but we really should be trying to get them in the smallest and to utilize the height of the space. And to be able to, and to do that, you really need to, sell boxes and to get them to box it properly. So I always tell people, if you really want to save money at your storage, if you pack and stack well, it's going to save you a ton of money. And so, I think because sometimes you'll hear that as like, they'll gasp at the prices. During COVID, people were like, what? Are you kidding me? I'm like, no. And that's the only one we have left. So I think, when you talk about that, it's so important to, give them some solutions, but talk about how they can stack and pack it and use and I don't mean going, finding boxes other places. If you use really good packing boxes, it makes a whole different, because they're heavier duty and you really stack and pack on them and they don't fall, and they're just better boxes. I will tell you, I had a store years ago in Hawaii. And because it was so expensive there to rent, when you would open a space to auction it off, boxes all the way to the front. That was definitely not uncommon. And we had a lot of, but we sold about 5,000 a month in boxes there on average. So every month. I mean, that's sometimes people are like, wow, that's amazing. Even now, that'd be amazing. But I think the thing is because the rent was so expensive, you had to pack and stack well. So if you want to help them get into a smaller space, I think the idea is to be, helping them figure that packing issue out and telling them you can save so much money if you pack higher and, in boxes and good boxes. So, yeah. You help them. I think that's what's great about good managers. They help people through that process.
No, I think that's such good advice, because and honestly, even the way that you presented, like, hey, you're going through a tough time, let me make this easy for you. Sometimes just the fact of calling out that this next process will be easy kind of already eases my feelings about what I'm about to go through, right? Because I've never rented a storage unit, most likely, in this scenario, right? And so the fact that you're telling me what's about to happen to you is going to be easy, don't worry, I got you. That's huge. And I think that already kind of takes my guard off, makes I'm probably feeling emotional because of all the other things that's happening to me right now. So I think that, just that one little thing that you just dropped in that feels so instinctual for you. So I think our managers or our operators, our phone people who are in this, all in the audience today, I think that's an easy thing to take away. It's just call it out, break the fourth wall a little bit and say, hey, let's make this as easy for you as possible. I think that's such great advice.
Yeah. And that's a nice thing to say, isn't it?
It is nice.
They're stressed already, because moving is stressful, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, I had to move.
Yeah.
I'm going to move up to Phoenix this year. And I was like, oh my gosh, I hate to move. And then my kids are like, put it in storage, put this in storage, or we have a big piano or a baby grand. And they're like, I'm like, oh no, if it's going in storage, we'll never get it out. No.
Yes. Well, so we talk, I think you even, we bled into from problem solving into giving advice, which I think is a natural thing to do, right? Like, hey, I love some of the tips that you gave about the different ways to pack, different ways to maximize your space. I think that's all really fantastic. So let's talk about this customer experience a little bit, right? So as a manager or as an operator, as the person that's dealing with the customer, what are different things I can do to improve the experience that customers have at my facility?
Well, first off, I would say have a golf cart. I love golf carts. If you can, people love to ride the golf carts. But if they're an indoor property, then you're not going to have that issue. But you always want to show them the space that they're going to be renting. Show them how to open the latch. I know, it seems like, well, that seems obvious, right? No, there are people that will lock it in the open position. They're not even realizing they're not moving it over to lock it. So they just roll down the door and lock it in an open position. You know what I mean, Tommy?
Mm-hmm.
With the latch. It's easy to do. But I think the thing about this is, as you're going through and showing them the space, I act like I assume the sale the whole time. When you come in, this is what you do. And this would be, if you choose this space, here's how you open it up. And when you can slide it back this way and you put your lock right through this place right here, and you'll be secure there, and that's all you have to do. And we have these great locks that we sell, because the thing is, like, I think you should be selling the locks that you have, because the problem is, if you, like, I have a 2,000 unit in Stockton, and we had people that would go to Ace Hardware and buy a lock there, and we had like 19 spaces that it opened up with that one key around our property, because there weren't enough key changes from the locks at the Ace Hardware. So, but we buy locks that have, a lot of key changes, but if managers don't know that, and how to explain that to customers, that you can't just go get a master lock somewhere. Well, you could, it's just not the best security. And if you're wanting to, I'd rather give a person a lock as if they can't afford it or whatever. And I leave my managers, I let them have that discretion to be able to give away stuff and to just write it off. It would be better than them say, going, I had one guy put a shoestring on. I was like, no, no, the shoestring doesn't work. He said, well, they have alarms on them. No, but I'm sorry. It still doesn't work.
Yeah. Lock anxiety is a real thing, especially for people who rent online. It's a common thing. Like, well, now what? Do I need to go to Lowe's? Can I pick one up at Walmart? Like, right. What kind of lock? I didn't know there was such. I thought the lock was on the door. I mean, there's so many. Yeah. There's a flood of questions about what lock I need, and yeah, especially it's a $4 lock.
Yeah, and and just making sure they know how to shut it properly, and not lock it in the open position. So it's that's why the demonstrating it. So when you take a person out, the whole time you should be talking about, we have this, we have this, we have this. And at National Self Storage, we started just putting like little things, security cameras, and we had a little route that we would take on the golf cart, so they would see everything. But I will say, even, putting a person's code in and having them use it, and before they leave, and to make sure it works. That's another thing. I mean, people that know this, it's so important to make sure that it all works, because when you're not there, it's going to need to work, right? If they come after hours, their office is closed, which pretty common. And then you have an upset customer. Then you have a person that's like, wait a minute. Yeah. It's no fun.
That's
Have
cool.
y'all been reading the comments here of what things have been used to lock doors before?
That's got to be its own thread at some point.
I wasn't seeing that, but it is funny, the weird things that people used to lock the door.
Yeah.
There's a McDonald's straw. There's
bread
tie. Yeah, but something you said there again. I think for you, Carol, it's so instinctual and it's so natural that I think like you didn't even think of it as advice, but I think it is worth calling out. Is like you said that you empower your managers to just say, yeah, write this off, right? And I think like with customer experience, your manager's empowerment is such a big part of it, right? If the manager feels like they can have a little ownership, they can feel like, yeah, I can make this decision to make your day better, and it's not going to hurt me, it's not going to hurt my job, it's not going to cut into my pay, then that's huge, right? That gives them all the freedom and flexibility to actually give this customer a good time and a good experience.
Not just about the sales.
That's really huge.
Either. Yeah, I don't think it's just in the sales. I think it's when we've made a mistake. We've done something wrong, or maybe they had a hard time, or they customer followed them in, and then they couldn't, or they followed a customer in and then couldn't get out, because you have to code in and code out, right? On some gates, the way it's set up. And so they get locked in there. I've had them locked in there, and I'm like, oh geez. Yeah. So, and if I have given a month free, I've like, you know what? I know it wasn't my issue. We didn't cause it, but just for good measure. And now with so many people giving reviews, bad reviews, And I think that's another thing, it might be another good topic is how do you write those reviews? Because I did a session on it in Florida a year ago, and the manager said, "Hey, everybody, here's what the scenario is. Write a response to the review." None of them were nice. None of one of them. I'm like, did you guys listen to what I was just talking about? Because it can't be. You can't say, "Well, it's your fault." Because it is. Okay, it is. Okay,
Right.
we know they've done something wrong, but you don't, call them out on social media, do you? I mean, I think
No.
it's just stupid sometimes, and I don't mean it. I think they take it personally. That's
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And you can't take it personally. I think sometimes bigger companies have internally they have people doing it, not the managers doing it because they feel like they take it too personally.
Yeah.
So, just say, "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't, we don't want that to happen to you. We'd like to give you a free month or, do something, and say sorry with that. Sorry is just such an easy thing to say. Right. But it, for, it can be hard. It can be hard when you don't think you did anything wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry that happens.
It all goes back to the customer experience. And that really even feeds into leads that you can get because good customer experience is going to be good referrals.
It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. What
That
kind
whole
of
experience.
referral process do you encourage?
Yeah, we pay people that we give them months free if they refer someone. I mean, that's a pretty big deal if they refer someone to us because it's hard. It's expensive to get a lead. So I look at it like, why not give the customer if they're referring to someone? Let's give them a whole month free. So
I like it. Yeah.
but again, the managers have to promote that and tell that, just by the way, if you want to save some money, you can refer some people, and then, it's really positive.
And if they have a good firsthand experience that they can say,
love it.
"Hey, I rented from them and this was going on and they did a fantastic job. They helped with my situation." That is all that referral needs to say, "Okay,
That's amazing.
that's my decision. I'm going to rent with them."
Yeah.
So,
That's
okay.
why it's so important to have that manager with the right attitude and that loves people already. Because it's if you don't like people and I'm just going to say the weirdness of people too, right? Because the
weird.
weirdness really comes out in storage. I don't know how that happens, but we get really weird things going on.
Yeah.
Look, I love that. A $50 referral. That's not, I think 25 we started out years ago, but I like the $50 referral.
50's nice. Yeah.
It makes it worthwhile. The customers are like $50. I don't know.
Gas cards are big. And then
Yeah.
Sue Havlin said, empower the managers, make them the heroes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Huge advice. And something Stacy Maxwell from Universal said last episode is, don't don't make it nonchalant about this referral
Right.
bonus. Have the recipient come into your office and make a big deal about it, right?
Yeah.
It's a photo op, it's a good
Yep.
social media post. I think and it also gives the recipient a little dopamine hit. It's like, oh, this is
Yeah.
cool. They think
It's true.
they think it's so special that I should
Yes.
come in, right? And so don't think that it's an inconvenience to have this person come in.
Right.
It actually might make it a little treat to
Yeah.
come by.
Yeah.
So all huge advice. So Carol, tie this all together for us. All right. So how do all these 5 skills, and then shout out Kim, by the way, for taking notes. She was able to regurgitate all the skills. She's practicing her active listening. But, the 5 skills we talked about are, product knowledge, active listening, problem solving, giving advice, and customer care. How do you tie all 5 of those skills together to actually convert people into or leads into tenants? Like, walk us through the proper steps that you would use to convert someone into a paying customer.
Yeah. I think, again, I like to hire people that like people. So when I'm hiring those people, they care about someone else. So that caring that the manager shows towards that I show to my managers, they show to the customers. Does that make sense? Because it starts at the top. If it starts at the top, then I have got to treat the managers the way that I want them to treat the customers. And then, for example, like Jenny, she takes care of the people. She knows them. She talks story with them, as they would say in Hawaii. And, she knows her customers and a lot about them. So I think that interaction that I allow, that I would say, we want you. to spend time with someone. Now, if you've got 13 rentals in a day, that's not going to happen. But if you have 2 in a day, you've got plenty of time and to talk to them about all the things. But I think it needs to be more than a transaction. I don't think this is just a transaction, and I don't want my employees to make it a transaction. I want them to enjoy the customer, give them free water, or drink or sodas or whatever. You have them cold in the office. You're thinking about them. I'd say we get on the golf cart in hot times in place, and we give the people water because sometimes they forget it, right? And they don't have it, or they don't want to come up front. But and Jenny says, treat them like family. It's their ohana. You want to treat people like you're treating your family.
That's
and
amazing.
I think that's a great way to say it. But again, I believe that means hiring people in self-storage who like other people and like being around people and helping people. Because if you get that sort of, because I've heard a few nurses, like retired nurses, they're really good. But sometimes at first they're like, they have a little attitude here or there. And I'm like, no, this is fun. You don't have to do anything weird. You don't have to put up with any stuff really compared to what you did, but they are talkers, they interact. So I think that showing that compassion is super important.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we're building those relationships. That's why if we say to someone in an interview, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then they say, what do you want to know? No, if you said, Carol, tell me something about yourself, I'm like, well, I would never stop, right? That happened earlier today. Right.
And see, that was Tommy's great ability in directing the conversation.
Yes, he did. He got
Get us back online.
We used all the skills today, baby.
That's right.
That's awesome.
That's so awesome. Well, Carol, you are a blast, my friend. We love having you on.
And can I say, Tommy, thank you so much, because you have helped me so many times with clients that I've had that I've said, hey, they're going to help you, the storage bug, go to them and they're going to take care of you. And I can't believe how many times people have called back and said, wow, that was a great experience. I thought that was going to be troublesome. And, I'm starting my little side business, and you didn't even know that I was starting it. Your group's keeping some information from you. But, we're going to roll out gun check that's coming out, and that you're going to have a website where people, if they find guns in storage units, that we can search them to see if they've been stolen or just if they've been used in some kind of crime. And
I love that. Well,
yeah, that's
Carol, we love you, and I know the industry loves you, but I do have a question of the week for you. I know this is hard. You got to pick one of your favorite children now. So of the 5 primary skills that we talked about today, which is most important to you and why?
I think the skill of being kind and nice and friendly on the phone. Everything else I can teach. I can't teach someone to be nice and friendly and kind.
Yeah.
Love that
everything
answer.
else.
Personality.
Personality.
Kindness. Yeah. I love that.
Right. It can't be trained.
Yeah.
Right.
So good. I like
2
it.
ex-husbands, so that's how.
Carol.
Can't be trained.
Leave it with a bang.
I love it. That's a great place to end this show, baby.
Yes, it is.
God, that's awesome.
Well, thank you so much, even for all the things you've done for me and my storage places. So
absolutely. And honestly, I think the record is in. This was the highest attended live audience we've had for Gabfocus.
Hey, thank you.
So Carol, I think everything you said today definitely resonated with the audience. I mean, based on the comment section alone, it was just nonstop.
Yeah.
So really, really wonderful, Carol. So in case people want to know more about you or how you can help them, what is the best? Oh, shout out Kristen, her first Gabfocus. Great one to be your first one. But Carol, how would people find you to learn more about you or how you can help them?
Carol at skillcheck.com is easy, or skillcheck, and it's with 1 L. We just misspelled it somehow along the way. But skillcheck, and we can help you in all things storage. My little girl's got to go outside. She's so cute, isn't she?
Oh, cute.
That's
And
adorable.
since the having your home office
Yeah.
is challenging, I can say that, Roach.
Yes.
Thank you so much, guys, for all you do for me, and I love you. So
Likewise, we love you too. Gabfocus, of course, brought to you by our teams here in Knoxville and Chattanooga. But you can listen to Gabfocus really anywhere you want on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever. Lots of pop-up episodes. Melissa and Josh have been busy dropping good stuff. All of our videos are available at storagepug.com/resources. And we just launched the Gabfocus or StoragePug YouTube channel where you can catch every episode in the past and future. So check it out on YouTube as well. And also I got a cool little plug here because I think Carol helped with this project. So I think it's makes sense. But before I announce the big thing, next time we'll see you will be April 25th. Elevating your marketing through curb appeal. So this one will be a fun one. We're going to be able to use the sales skills that we learned today to convert all these leads because your curb appeal is so awesome. So be sure to join us for that one in April. But we did just launch on Monday the Sales 101 Self-Storage Managers Playbook. Shout out Kevin Mullis, who is Manager of the Year in Georgia. Yeah. And Carol of Skill Check right there for helping us put together a pretty comprehensive guide on how to be awesome at sales. As long as you can bring some of the intangibles like the personality, the kindness, the genuine care. If you bring that to the table, the rest Carol can teach you. So check this out. I'll put the link in the comment section where you can download this playbook for free. Awesome. Otherwise, thank you. And
thank you.
Hopefully I will see everyone soon in
Vegas. Hopefully.
In Vegas, hopefully.
Yep.
And if not, I'll see you on the 25th.
Okay.
Oh, and this week, I think today, we are dropping the first legal chat.
Oh,
with
awesome.
Scott and Carlos. They're doing their legal chat through YouTube. And so each quarter they're doing one of those shows. And so we'll drop one of those every time we produce it. So that's going to be today's show. So
I'll put that in the chat as well. I watched it this morning, or whenever it launched, I guess like a few hours ago. So there we go. Good stuff. All those two guys are kind of amazing.
Oh my goodness.
They're funny
so much fun. Yeah, so much fun.
Yeah. So, all right, everyone.
Thank you again.
Thanks, Carol.
Bye.